about the scores we ain't set. We said winner 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, F. Fam over gram, that's a message. We be stacking bread up like it's cheddar. Talking about the scores we ain't set. We said winner 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, F. Dreams over schemes, that's a
Boom.
Man, I love that. Okay, let's do this one time and then we won't do it again. So the intro music. What do you think of it?
I think it was awesome. When you first sent me the clip, you know, my first reaction was, this is dope, because it obviously hits everything that we're looking to target. And then my next thing is, who did the song, because I know that this is going to blow, and when it blows up, I got to deal with crap.
That's right.
Which has been happening more often than not. So I've been using CapCut to you know make edits and stuff, and then posting it on social. And I've actually been getting notifications that, hey, we've muted your post in certain countries or states for copyright infringement.
Yep.
Yeah, but
well, and the other part of that story is that you know, go to Spotify, look up Bed Peddler, 2 words, BEDPEDDLER, Bed Peddler. There's also a story to Bed Peddler that sometimes we can talk about where that name came from. But those are 4 broke. Well, I shouldn't say they're all broke. 2 of them actually have good jobs now. The other 2 are still fighting their way through college. Friends, college students that just like writing rhymes and coming up with cool beats that they can purchase through SoundCloud, and had the guts to walk into a recording studio that gave away free time and just start having fun with friends. And okay. And by the way, one of those is my son, Tate Levin. So shout out to Tate. And Zach and Owen and Travis. Those are the other 3. What I loved about it though, Abdel, is that I just love that my boy and his friends weren't afraid to go do something like this and make it public, knowing that they're going to get made fun of by some people. And then others are going to think that's pretty cool. And then others like me are just going to say, just the fact that you did it, just the fact that you had an idea, you put together a plan, you walked into a studio and you actually executed. That's what I was most impressed by and proud of when it came to my boy and his friends, all of which I know very well and consider them sort of extended sons, which kind of leads to what I wanted to talk about with you today. And let me just frame it. Does our industry have a laziness problem or a leadership problem? And let me tell you where this is not a new thought. I mean, this comes up all the time. But I was speaking at an event recently, and I got off stage, and there was a lot of energy around what I was talking about, which was basically taking data and market intelligence and figuring out how to get more transactions, new transactions based upon that intelligence.
Yep.
I come off stage, and there's so much energy, lots of great feedback, lots of energy. But then a couple of leaders came up to me and said, the problem is they won't adopt it because they're lazy. And I really took offense to that, to be honest with you.
Sure.
It's an easy thing to say. It's an easy thing to say that because something's not happening, this person or these groups of people are lazy. Now, look, there's plenty of lazy people in this industry for sure. I don't know any other industry where you can make 100+ basis points on one thing, literally close 1 or 2 units a month and make significantly more than what the average person is making in this country, right? I mean, to me, that's still wild. And I think that does sometimes drive a little bit of maybe laziness. I'm going to do the least amount possible kind of thing. But when we think about the industry, the tools and resources that are available to us, and you are a massive consumer of tools and resources, so I feel like I'm talking to the right person.
Yeah.
Do you think we have a laziness issue or a leadership issue? Where do you kind of start on that topic?
100% leadership. 100% leadership. I can't sit there as a leader of my team, of my division, of our branches, of our organization, and sit there and tell an originator or a processor or an LOA or an admin to do something if I myself don't understand the urgency behind why I want it done, right? the persona of who's the audience that I'm looking to target, right? The specific task as to like, hey, this is why I'm asking you to take a mortgage app a certain way. This is why I'm asking you why to record your meetings with an AI transcriber. This is why I'm asking you to use that transcription now to put it into a follow up AI software that is going to now follow up with them. This is why you have your admins there to support you as an originator within the CRM and update your drips and update your conversations. This is why I tell you guys to let the admins know to set up a calendar invite to follow up with you and your referral partner. All I hear there is let me do somewhat of the grunt work of the setup, and then I'm going to bring you into my infrastructure and say, hey, this is how I want you to use it, right? And I truly think it falls back on leadership, right? I've been with the same organization for 8 years. I don't have that problem from a leadership perspective with PRMG, right? Because to your point, there's a plethora of tools and resources, and there's a plethora of opportunities. From a corporate perspective, they've done their job, right? I can't expect them to go to me and say, hey, we got you guys total expert to use this and use that. And then this is how you, Abdel Khawatmi, need to use it in your individual branch and your individual ecosystem, right? I think from a corporate perspective, their leadership needs to bring me access to tools. Now they've passed the baton. Now my job as the leader is to test the tools and resources and figure out if it works for me individually. Now, kudos to my organization because they know there are certain platforms that I'm not necessarily the greatest use case for it. So they're putting me in touch with the people who run the platform and say, hey, Pastor, why aren't you using it? And not from a, hey, you have to use it. We're just curious as to why you use ABC over XYZ and what can we do to help improve, right?
So can I interrupt? So that's awesome. I mean, you with full conviction and confidence, you said without hesitation it's a leadership problem. What I love the most about what you then said next is you talked about yourself. You weren't blaming your leadership. You're talking about your leadership to other people. And then we can transfer that into, a head of production, a president, an owner, a head of digital marketing, you name it. Let me throw out maybe a little bit of a counterpoint. So I heard somebody say, loan officers will spend 2 hours scrolling on Instagram, but they won't spend 20 minutes learning a platform that can actually help them make a significant amount more money. So that's one thing that sort of came to mind. Another one along those lines, but I see both sides when I'm about to say. Another speaking engagement relatively recently, I was noticing the speaker before me who was fantastic, and they speak on social media, not like what we see so much, which is followers, likes, content. This talk was about how to utilize social media for prospecting and conversion. It was very, very dialed in. Great speaker. And the audience actually asked for this speaker. It wasn't like it was put on them. Well, I'm watching from the back because I'm up in an hour, and 80% of the room is like this while this person's talking. I don't know if you see my phone. Head down in their phones. So that's what I was seeing. I was physically seeing that happening. And then you have leaders that say they'll spend 2 hours on Instagram scrolling, but they won't spend 20 minutes to go do one thing that can help them drive more business. I have a thought, but before I throw it out, I want to reconcile that with you. Where does your head go when you see that?
I mean, listen, we as leaders, right, have to kind of put some of those guardrails in place for our employees, right? Where if we meet with our teammates in person, everybody put your phone away, right? If you're jumping on Zoom on a webinar or a call, everyone have your cameras on, right? If you're in the car, get the hell out of the call. Because we're all busy, right? We all have our calendars and stuff, but if I can make the necessary time, I expect the same from you as an originator or a processor or whoever it is, right? Listen, are people lazy? Of course they are, right? If people weren't lazy, you and I would not be as successful as we are. It's just the truth of the matter. We get the same time in the day. Um, but I still firmly believe it comes down to leadership because you know that I fire faster than I hire.
Mm.
And I refuse to hire part-time loan officers. I refuse to hire certain professionals. I'm not expecting you to wake up early and hit the gym. And you've noticed I've gotten better at texting early, saying "excuse me for the early text."
You did that to
Uh,
me this morning, and
did
it
that?
was, by the way, it wasn't that early, quite frankly. I mean, it's like
I
a little bit
know,
after 6. And yes, I was not lying in bed scrolling with my wife trying to get sleep next to me. I was out of the room, long gone.
and I did apologize in advance
You
to tell
did,
your
you
wife.
did. You're good, dude.
Um, so, so again, I truly think that, man, because it starts from us at the top, right? I'm up early. I do every single morning, Monday to Monday, a YouTube link of a motivational thing that I'm listening to. Every single morning, I do it in 4 different WhatsApps, one with my team, one with my mastermind, one with my book club, and one with this group that I have of like 9 or 10 different originators, right? Every single morning, like clockwork. And it falls back on us. It's the reminder. Hey, whose ass is still in bed, right? I'm out there because they know everyone has access to my calendar too. By the way, every employee, and we do that purposely. So if they're booking a meeting for with a referral partner, they know my calendar, right? So they're
Mhm.
going to Calendly, and then they have access to seeing it blocked out or not, and all that stuff. Um, are loan officers going to be lazy? Yes, I think it's truly us as leaders who kind of sort of have to. It's like our kid, right? You've got your children. We kind of sort of had to somewhat baby step them into their positions of growth, right? And by them, these analogies are all popping in my head, right? But we didn't just tell our kid to get up and start walking or start running, right? We told them to start taking baby steps first.
Mhm.
But even then, right? Think of it this way: even before we got the baby steps, we also bought them like a walker, right? Remember? I don't know if you did this. I know I remember. I used to
Oh,
freaking
yeah,
hate
you
it.
plop
The
them
thing you
down in
put
that
the kid in.
thing, and
Yeah,
that's right, yeah, I forgot.
right.
I'm old,
So,
so it's been a
so
minute.
so think of it this way, right? I mean, Jimmy's 6, but I was thinking of that because now all of our friends are having their kids, and
Mhm.
we were looking at the baby shower registry, and I pointed out to my wife, I'm like, dude, this thing got like all the little gadgets, and it's got screens now, and I'm like, I remember my kid just had the little bell, right, and then the little twirly thing. Um, but yeah, I think that analogy is a perfect reference of that stuff. And if an originator is lazy in the world of AI, um, I mean, we can go down a rabbit hole of that,
Oh,
but that
dude,
that
that is
again,
such, yeah, because I think about that too. Like, number
of course,
1, there's actually no excuse. There's no excuse to not take a leap towards what it is you want because of AI. But I do worry that it's gonna make us lazier because we like, there's still that gap between, well, okay, you just made me think of something. In this case, AI is the leadership. I go
mhm,
to AI and I say, I'm thinking about doing XYZ. I'm not quite sure how to do it. This is my background. This is the audience I'm talking to. Help me design a plan to get me close to what it is I'm trying to execute. It'll design the plan for you. I still have to execute it though. I still have to go do something with that information. Well, until the robots take over, and then we'll figure out what happens next.
yeah,
So no, that, let's write that down because that's a whole nother topic I think that we probably talk about at some point. As you were talking also, you made me think about the 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 actual disruption and challenge that can exist with options. So I'll tell you personally, as a parent, I felt like when my kids were really young and even before they were born, Nikki, my wife, and I used to talk about our job is to put them in a position to have options. However, here's what I have found in retrospect. Sometimes, if you don't guide them towards an option or even push them over the cliff on that option, they can be paralyzed by the options. I see that with my own children, my kids' friends as well. Doesn't mean I did a bad job as a parent. I mean, come on, man. None of us get a freaking user guide when we have children. And so we're just doing the best we can.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about that. And then I'm also thinking about what you were saying earlier in how you hold yourself accountable as a leader. So picture this. It's March right now. We've got college basketball in full swing. I love this time of year. Even as upset as we can all get with NIL and whatever, and I don't care, man. I'm still telling you, it is crazy to me how you can turn on a whatever game in March and somehow it's going to be competitive. It's just wild. You're the coach of a team, and it's an out of bounds play, or it's a play after a timeout, or it's a play with 10 seconds left on the clock. Are the players arguing for the entire timeout about which is the best play to run? Or does the coach say, this is the play that we're running, go run it? Which also then means, and I'm curious to get your take on this, if the play and when the play doesn't work, and let's agree, one time is not a trend. That's not a trend. Sure. But if you do it 4 or 5 times in a row and it doesn't work 4 or 5 straight times, now it's up to the leader to continue to do their job, right? Look at their personnel, figure out what do they have access to, and adjust that play design based upon the information that they have in front of them. So both things can be true. The leader has to make the decision based upon the research, be confident with the decision, send the players out onto the court with that decision to go execute, because the coach can't execute, the players have to execute, and then decide, did it work? Do I keep going down this path? How do you adjust when you learn that something didn't work? A tool that you chose, you spent 6 months on, you pushed the team to use, they did adopt it, but then now you've got to come to them and say, I made a mistake. How do you handle that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We track everything weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, right? Down to literally everything, right? Down to literally today, I ran our numbers, right? Because we did it monthly, quarterly, and now I'm pretty much at the halfway point of March. So I did year-to-date numbers of 2025 and 2026 based on units and closings, and we're up 54% in units, and we're up almost 36% in volume, right? Which is awesome, right? Which tells me it's a combination of market sentiment, it's a combination of originators, closings, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But the coaching, I think it comes down to like Phil Jackson, how Phil Jackson used to coach, Pat Riley, how they used to coach, and they had beasts on their team, right? You had Kobe, you had Jordan, you had LeBron when he played for Miami, like top players, but it was the coach that the players looked to, right? I mean, look at right now with LA. And I've been so bad at staying on sports, been slammed, but I see it here and there in passing, like Luka, right, with JJ Redick, right? And there's obviously some animosity going there. And then it's like, who do you get rid of? Do you get rid of the franchise player because LeBron's pretty much tapped out, or do you get rid of the younger coach, right, who is still is it JJ Redick's first coaching gig? I think it might be.
It is.
Yeah. So it's funny to see that, but you see JJ Redick doesn't care, right? He is the leader of the team, and he is sending him to the end of the bench to sit and think about it. I will still continuously say it comes down to the leader, right? Originators are going to be lazy, so I kind of have to put systems in place to help kind of offset that laziness, which sucks, but dude, that's the reality of it, right? Whenever an originator sees that light at the end of the tunnel as their closings start happening and as their conversations start happening, I'll be honest, as a leader, I might be like, hey, I don't need to press this kid too much. I've got another LO that I can maybe delegate my time of 30 minutes where I used to truly check in on these originators more from my perspective. I can maybe shift that to another originator who I see kind of slumping based on minutes on. I mean, dude, we're tracking. Some of them are doing it now where, we track minutes on the phone, time spent on the phone, text messages sent. So they're actually enjoying it now, where they're delegating to our admins to log into their T-Mobile and Verizon accounts and pull the same data too. So you literally don't leave it to chance. So I would never have it go 6 months. I would literally just be like, hey, and it becomes kind of addicting too, because you're like, oh, fucker, I spent more time on the phone than you, but then I also got 3 closings in. You only got 2. So I think when you create that environment where there's that camaraderie built in, the teammates actually end up doing somewhat of the leadership training for you. If that
Yeah.
makes sense, right? Because
Oh yeah.
obviously
Yep.
players become leaders,
Right.
leaders become obviously that's the ultimate guidance, right? Um, so yeah, but it's just like anything, right? I also like to know the originators from a personal perspective too, what's going on at home, right? Because you and I
It
both
affects
know
them.
if you're having a tough time with your significant other or you just
Mhm.
broke up with your girl, right? I know you're going to slack. I know you're probably going to be out and about, partying it up, doing your thing, whatever. And I got to be the cool, boss that's like, "Yo, dude, how you doing it?" "Oh man, I've been with Ashley for 18 years, so I don't know what, all these apps are and all that fun stuff. But let's remember, right, that if we're going to keep living that lifestyle, we got to get closings." Right.
Yeah.
So, and kind of having that ability to pivot between the two, I think is critical as a
No,
leader.
I, and that falls into leadership as well, which is understanding that the group is the group, but there's individuals that make up that group, and the good leaders actually know who these individuals are, and you find a way to understand what motivates them and how that is special, and then figure out a
Exactly.
way to communicate with them. I mean, we have personality tests for things like that, and that's fine, but nothing beats actually getting to know someone. So backing up a little bit and maybe starting to close this topic out, this score, so to speak. Um, Going back to my example of when I saw all of these people on their phones not paying attention. Now, the good thing for me was I got to see it before I went on stage, and I just adjusted. I was on stage for maybe 5 minutes. I spent my
Mm.
time in the audience walking around with the microphone, and engagement happened. But I asked the group, for those of you that were on your phone, and don't act like you weren't because I was watching you from the back, what were you doing?
Yeah.
And the answer was not Instagram. The answer was not Facebook. The answer was not I'm checking the score or, my parlay from last night, whatever. They they were
Taking notes.
managing their pipeline. They were inside of their pipeline. And so, but then what hit was, this is why 90% of you will never grow your business. It's because you're spending so much time in the weeds on one loan, and you're not spending any time doing the thing that will get you what you want, which is scale, which is 2x, 3x, 4x the business you're doing today, which then made me think, is it a laziness problem or is it a distraction problem? And that's where I agree with you. Leadership comes into play, because if it's a distraction problem, I don't think any of those people were lazy. If they were lazy, they wouldn't have been at the conference. If they were lazy, they wouldn't be managing their pipeline, right? They're distracted, and it's taking them away from the things that will help them do one of two things. You've heard me say this before: more business in the same amount of time, or the same amount of business in less time.
Next time.
Either you want to spend more time doing other things, but you don't want your volume and your income to drop, or you want to do more volume, more business, and you need your time to be efficient with the tools and resources to actually get there. So I then go to this thought of like a formula, which is, and I know that we're saying laziness, but maybe let's call it adoption to a process. You've got to have clarity. And you said these things: clarity, conviction, accountability, and less options. And
Mhm.
maybe to your point, that's more about leadership than it is about laziness.
Yeah, dude, because we weren't taught this stuff, right? We're all figuring this out along the way, right? We were given a calculator, a pen, a paper, and figure it out, right? And then quickly realizing that um, there's a lot more to this, right? Where I got to take a step back and I got to start dialing it in. And just like anything, as leaders, we're also evolving in our leadership positions, right? Where first you only led, a processor and an admin. Then you bring in an LOA. So now you have an LOA, a processor, and admin. Then you bring in an originator, and now you got to worry about your business and then theirs. And then you bring in 17 knuckleheads like I have now, and you got to worry about them. And then you bring in our other branches, and now I got to worry about my branch manager and everybody under there, and so on and so forth. Um, so I think the biggest part, and this is where I confidently see, and I'm going to be biased in saying this, is where the originators that understand that they have to constantly pivot in their business, right? The stuff I talked about, at Sales Mastery and at Leadership Conference with PRMG, when it came to AI and technology, is totally different now.
Yeah, right.
And it freaking sucks, right? Because you're like, damn, that was 6 months ago in October that we talked about doing this, and we talked about some tools, and I'm like, it's totally different now. We're now it's a lot more on the efficiency routes and the operational routes and some of the cool tidbits. And I don't really stay on top of the super cool trendy stuff. Like, dude, it's just working for me, and I'll keep an eye on it and a gauge on it.
Right.
But yeah, man, I mean, again, I think it truly falls back on leadership. If you're a a CEO, obviously your leadership right under you from a hierarchy perspective is, every company's different, with senior vice presidents, and then it trickles down to regionals, and then trickles down to branch managers, and then originators, and then LOAs, and then processors, and however it is. And we have to be able to explain things. I mean, we have SOPs for everything. I mean, when you asked me 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, when you had asked me a specific question about model match, right? And you were like, hey, give me a quick little thing, what you had in mind. And I sent you a freaking book.
Yeah, you did.
And I was
not only that, you did it in about 30 seconds.
Well, it was there. It was already done.
Right. You already built it.
It was already there. But again, so I can't sit there as an originator and go tell an originator, hey, go use platform A, if I haven't used it, optimized it, seen somewhat of the results, and then integrated it, right?
Mhm.
Like, we introduced a new platform recently that's kind of like a one-page, where I could organize everything, right, with Housing Link. And I've been like losing sleep at night because I'm like, I got to implement this with my team, because I'm seeing the results. I'm seeing the positive sentiment from clients and realtors and stuff, but I haven't figured out how to make it super streamlined yet. So I will not introduce it to my team just yet. I'm giving them little teasers. I'm creating it for them, like post meetings and stuff.
Right.
I think I might have sent you one yesterday.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But I haven't passed that baton off yet, because as a leader, I haven't figured out how I can simplify it. Right.
And if you do it too soon, you're going to create confusion. And then the next time you try to introduce something that you actually have done your due diligence, there's not trust there. So they're not going to give you that fair shot. Let's close it out on this. So it's not laziness. It is leadership, but originators, you're accountable to your own leadership as well. That's not a one-way street. And then, I'll close it out with this. And I've learned this by starting a tech company several years ago, not being a tech guy. Software technology is never built. It's always being built. And if you treat your business the same way, all of a sudden you kind of view the tools and resources that can get you there quicker a little bit differently, even if that means you got to spend a little less time doing the busy work that just leads to this one loan in your pipeline at the moment. So, Abdel, you're the man. I love this. I'm glad we're doing it. We'll give it a week or so. We'll pick another score and we'll settle it.
So let's go.
All right, homie.
See it.